Hey everybody, welcome to sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're doing a special edition of Maritime Security Talk, Season 2, Episode 6. And of course, before we get involved with anything, we're going to have to sit there and do this thing called the opinions expressed during this recording are own personal opinions, do not necessarily reflect the current or past employers and or audio problems or anything like that do not reflect those employers either. So, yes, we're cyber, and we kind of work in IT, but we still cannot manage to get it right. So, we just blame the guy from the agency that has security in its name twice. So, with that, I want to make a special introduction to the guy that is sitting to my right. That is Marco Ayala. Wave, Marco. Hey, Marco. And then the next guy that's causing all the bird chirps is Julio.
Hey, back it up or something.
And, the other thing you could do, Julio, is connect your ear pods, and then it'll just put your ear pods in your pocket or something. We can try that. There's always ways around. And unfortunately, Nick Parham cannot join us. Yeah. But we have some very, very special guests with me right here.
Hello, Larry Medrano.
The guy from down south, the man that knows it. He keeps everybody up north safe. So, collaborative effort. Yeah. And then next to Julio is Erica, and she is here just to kind of hang out and be our audience. We've never had a live audience, so Erica. We've got one. Yay! And then next to over there is in the sun is the gorgeous assistant executive producer, and she is just sitting there like, can I get off camera? And then the other guy, his name's P. He gave up the letter Q and moved on to a different letter in the alphabet. He said, well, I got to move up one. Q. I'm now P. So, anyways. Hey!
How you doing?
So we're here to talk about Hack the Port in the conference. We all attended this conference, right? Everybody here? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good conference.
Some of us, good conference, right?
No, not so much.
Not so much? Wait, come on, Mike. It wasn't that bad.
No, it was all right.
Come on, Mike. Go ahead,
good talks. There were some good talks.
No, there were some really good talks. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Very good content. Poorly represented. There was not enough, in my opinion, physical representation, people there filling the seats, and the interaction. I mean, let's face it, a conference is primarily about networking, right?
Yep. That's
really what a conference is primarily about. How can you virtually network effectively in that type of environment, right? I mean, when you have amazing speakers up there talking about very real things, and you have 5 people physically in the audience, it's not a good look.
It becomes a little bit distracting.
Hey, I got a standing ovation.
By the 3 of us.
Come on.
But I wonder,
dude, you're bursting my bubble.
That
was the first time I got a standing ovation.
Main stage had quite a few people in there.
Yeah, like 9.
No. There were times there was probably 50, 60 in there.
Yeah, no, it was okay.
Yeah. But the way the breakout tracks and the training sessions.
At least to speak.
Yeah, the training sessions and all that overlaid or overlapped.
There was too much.
It made an impact. So.
Well, what got me was the training rooms had bigger screen than the second stage did.
Yeah, some of the screens you couldn't make out what the presenters were talking about, so you had to squint, get close, right? But I agree with you. There should have been a better representation.
True. There. And with this being their first run, and they do run other conferences, I think it's something that it'll be better next year, the following year. So that's the silver lining.
And it was very focused on the students, right? You had all the training that was going on.
Can we talk about that?
Hacking competition, right? And I thought it was very interesting. They had the little boat thing in there, and they were trying to mess with the ballast. That was very interesting.
And then the mock-up ship to shore crane.
Right,
absolutely.
And so now the one thing that I would, as a recommendation that I would have is, because everybody was so focused on what they were doing, right? They're trying to attack these systems and all that. I wish they would have somebody that's looking around, and when a non-cyber person that's not participating right here would approach and try to figure out what is it that they're trying to do. Somebody that could explain, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. This is what the competition is. Because, I mean, it was obvious all the students that were in it, they knew what they were doing.
Right.
But for everybody else, including industry that was present, they just looked like a bunch of kids messing in a computer, and you don't really know what the challenge is. You don't really know what the.
And the thing about the students was the whole techie side, right? I was in a management-oriented meeting, and I saw some of the students just get up and say, "Oh, I'm not going to ever be a manager. I want to be a tech," and they just left, right? So it's setting and honestly, looking at the perspective and holistic, it's setting a facade for them just to specifically look at the tech side, right? Hey, let's hack this. Let's look at the operational technology component. Let's gear our methodologies to attacking these systems. But there's much more to it, and that's the thing. Is just having them being engaged in some of the management side, some of the getting them aware of that, and I think that's critical to their development as well. I think the techie side, that's good, right? That's hands-on keyboard,
right?
But if you want somebody to grow holistically, you have professionally as well. You have to expose them more to not only the tech side, but also them as development as management side.
And I think some of the panels that talked about education and professional development, they did talk about communication skills, critical thinking. Being able to explain what you're doing, because I tell you, and I've had this experience at work, and the places where you're talking to the young engineers and the young great cyber minds, right? And this guys can hack anything, right? They can hunt, they can do a lot of things. But then when you approach them and you say, well, what does that mean, and how are you defending it, or how is this going to impact the company? All you get is yes, no, it's a big problem. And it's kind of like, I need you to verbalize what you're doing. And the only way to do that.
But that comes with experience.
I was going to say, I thought that was a federal response.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Like, where's the briefing? I want someone to be able to sit there.
Where's the hot
wash?
I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to my 17-year-old. Hey, how'd the day in school go? Good. It's like, I need a little more substance in there.
But you know how you can do that? Kind of going back to your point with the students, and also you were talking about the focus on the students was really good. However, not just having somebody there to explain what's going on, but get the students interacting with the current professionals in that field. Again, networking, getting them exposed to those types of interactions early on. Understand, because let's face it, we're all management level, and mid to upper level management, right? Get them exposed to that level of interaction. Get them start thinking how to respond to these questions, learning those interactions early on, because all that's going to do is set them up for success. If they're just sitting there doing this and there's no interaction, you're setting them up for failure.
Well,
later on down the line.
You set them up to what the biggest challenge that cybersecurity field has right now is. All your techies are great, but then they're like, well, the C-suite doesn't understand, and they don't want to invest. I said, well, maybe it's an explanation, right?
Because you don't know how to translate.
Be able to get away from the tech side and being able to simplify the technicality so the C-suite can understand what the problem is, how serious it is, and why they need to invest on that.
Get away from the ones and zeros.
Well, at some point. Yeah,
So,
you want to say something?
I was just going to say that. Cybersecurity is all about solving problems, right? And so I agree with what Mike was saying. You have to connect the students with the professionals in the room, because it can kind of help them shape what problems they need to be solving.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Figuring out what the current problem set is, and the industry professionals know that.
Yep.
And so the students who are just learning and they're, getting their feet wet, can then start to focus some of their efforts into solving the real problems that need to be solved. And only the industry professionals know that.
Absolutely.
So I had a few students come up to me and they asked, they're techies, right? Yeah. Big about hacking the operational technology and so forth. And they asked, why do I have to go to the C-suite? Why do I have to sell it to them? I know what's right for them. Why do I have to have buy-in? And I'm like, okay.
That's actually a really good question for a student to be asking. Yep. It really is.
So I spoke to him what the importance of not only being able to talk and translate the technical side to a more understanding side to the executives, but also the important role of having buy-in to them to understand what's going on.
Sure.
It's critical. If
Absolutely.
you don't have the executives buy-in,
Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. Correct.
Yeah.
Period.
Right, and right now we're in a stage where your executives are non-techies. They didn't even grow up with cybersecurity. They don't know ones and zeros. They know how to turn on the computer
Wait,
and
so you
maybe
call
how to
them?
send an email.
But here's,
No, they're just experienced,
but
right?
here's the thing: you're starting to see more executives that are non-techies, that are coming in because they have a little bit of creativity
Right.
capability. I've seen where there has been a CISO that was a music major.
Oh wow.
Nothing to do with
Really?
cyber. Because they were able to think creatively,
Yeah,
think
yeah,
outside of the box.
That's needed.
So that's needed.
definitely
So
needed.
Mike, there's hope for you.
About as creative as I get is a box of crayons. Come on.
Yeah,
Let's
and
be real.
I know
Yeah,
the
you gotta
challenge.
stop eating them and actually use
No,
them.
no, multicolored. I like different flavors. Colors.
Well, I have to say, from the conference itself, just looking, from the outside in, I think they did with the limited amount of time to put this together. They could have had a little bit longer, got more people in. But to their defense, and I'm not speaking for them, we had this Russian-Ukraine thing pop right into the middle of this, and so I know they had a lot of people that had to bow out. There was a large presence online. What those numbers were, not sure. But I can say that I know for a fact asset owners were there here at the conference, such as these port guys.
Yeah.
But also there were cruise lines.
Yep.
And also carriers, LNG carriers from all over.
Here?
So yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because to me, it seemed like there was nothing but students.
Yeah,
and,
that's
that's
exactly
what
what
I
I was
got.
about to say.
No.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because you made a comment earlier, and I believe you are 100% right. You made a comment before we got on about how you wish that ports would send their people out to these kind of things more often, right?
That's right.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Could not agree more. For example, this is the first conference of this type that I've been to. I am an FSO. I'm not going to say where. I'm an FSO. I am now technically responsible for cybersecurity. Yet, everything that I've done to learn anything about cybersecurity, I have had to go out and hunt for and search for and say, hey, to the people like Marco, can you teach me? Chris, can you teach me? What education opportunities are there out there, right? It has not been the port pushing that. Part of the reason is separation of duties, right? Yet I own it according to the Coast Guard. As an FSO, I own it.
Yeah.
I need to be in conferences such as these.
But I think that's part of the awareness, Mike. And I really hope that they do a Hack the Port conference again. Number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and that they continue
somewhere else besides Fort Lauderdale during spring break.
St.
Actually, I'm
St.
okay with
Martin
that.
will be great.
I'm
St.
okay
Martin,
with. Oh,
St. Martin,
yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Actually,
San Juan, yeah.
There-
I don't mind
Galveston
Fort
is
Lauderdale,
building
but if
some
we could have
things.
done it
No.
like next week,
Yeah.
would have been good.
Yeah.
But I think it was more gauged because students, right, being them on spring break and everything like that.
Yeah, but those kids are not. Those kids
So-
kids that are here, I bet you're not on spring break.
So
Right.
No,
You know,
they wouldn't have been here.
But
Yeah.
what I was going for is as the awareness, gets out, and if they could make it a very well balanced, physical cybersecurity, make it maritime security. Period.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank
so
you.
that's a
Make
great
it
point.
security.
Right.
Make
so
it security.
the talk that I gave on the drill ships, modern drill ships, we had folks from CISA, we had folks from asset owner side that sat in on that, and they were like, this is the kind of stuff that we need to understand and put security around our control systems.
Right.
And so it's talks like that
There was
drive it.
some physical security stuff there.
Yes.
There was,
Yeah,
for
the
the
access
hacking
control,
side
yeah.
of thing,
But
was
that's it,
access
that's it,
control and
Gates.
also gate control.
Yeah.
Gate
That's
control.
all.
So there was
Bad
two
on-
items there that were definitely related to physical
2 items out of
security.
how many?
a
8.
lot.
Well, but then
one
again,
quarter.
you're talking about number 1 conference, first time they've ever done it.
Right.
Yes,
There's a lot of
exactly.
room to growth, and I think we need to be fair on that end. And I think this is constructive feedback in the fact that, hey, let's talk about maritime security. Period. You got to have a balance between
Break down the
physical and
silos.
break out the silos.
You know,
Let's
it's been good
figure
to have
out
here.
where.
Actually, Coast Guard up on stage talking.
Amen. I mean, who's the regulating
Well,
authority?
Yeah.
There was a track. There was a couple tracks.
Who has
right?
the whip, right?
Yeah, who's the regulating authority?
Yeah,
I mean,
think they
the
missed out on
title
a
the
great
title of the
opportunity
conference
here
was what? I'm sorry,
to
hack
do the
port?
collaboration piece. You know, Coast Guard CPT
I know, I'm kind of critical.
probably would have been good to have here to talk.
Yeah.
You know, about what they can do, what their capabilities are, and then guess what? They could be mentoring those kids that are sitting there doing hack report.
Right.
Especially the blue team that's doing the defense.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about CPT tomorrow.
So
You are awesome.
Oh, there you go.
What time?
2:45.
I will not be
2:45.
here.
I'll be on a plane.
I'll be there.
I'll be in a plane.
Love you, bro.
Sorry,
Love you,
Cleo.
bro, but no.
So
Sorry.
that's your own thing.
That's the other thing.
Actually, I won't be on a plane. I'll be back home. You know what? I'll log in live.
I think the scheduling bit was a little bit of an issue because, you know, originally they put out that, you know, it was going to be a Monday through Thursday thing. Then come to there's actually a Friday piece to it.
I think that's the award ceremony for the red team, blue team.
So I'll give you this. For the amount of time that they spent actually putting this together, like 3 months, right? It was okay. It was decent.
It was good.
Spend more. Give it a little bit more time. You know, plan it a little bit longer. You know, get more outreach, and I think it would have been much better. It would have been much better.
Well, you're nominated on the alternate. You said alternate effort, so we're going to alternate you for the advisory board.
I'm down.
There you go.
Just be
You're gonna be
prepared.
on
I don't have
Just be
that.
prepared for me to speak
I
my
don't-
mind.
I do not have that authority. So.
Hack
Be
report,
prepared.
board of
More of a maritime conference though, because when it said hack report. So I think what you were saying about how we need to bring in more elements of security. It was kind of confusing to me because I thought it was more port related, and then I saw some of the talks and it was more cybersecurity related.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is a cyber conference, and they just mentioned the word port a few times.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my.
I mean, I've been involved in cyber exercises
Great
that
point. Great point.
included both physical,
Can you talk?
no, the physical and the cyber side of things, because that's what's going to happen. We see that with Russia, what they're doing, what they did with the cyber attacks. They did physical attack after they did, leaded everything up with a cyber.
Right.
You know what? Can we start a trend? Let's start a trend. Let's stop talking cybersecurity and physical security. Let's just stop.
Just say
Security. Just say security. Because the
But how else
reality
are we gonna
that's
talk
what it
about
is, though.
routers?
But that's what it is. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about just straight up security, right? How are we going to
Well, you
break
need to
down
come
these
back.
silos if we keep, separating things?
Right.
So let me know.
You know what I mean? I mean, just at the basis of it,
Right.
how are we split? We talk about breaking down silos, but yet we still segment out everything, even in our conversations. Let's not do that anymore.
Right. And I think.
Hey, Philomena, come on over. Oh, time out. We got all right.
Oh, yeah, we gotta get more
This is
drinks,
the woman
y'all.
that's keeping us happy. There she
Say
goes.
hi.
There she goes. She's keeping the libations
I
flowing.
think we're all gonna get another.
Yeah, that's a couple. Oh,
So sad.
quitting after she
Sad day.
quitting
Sad
after.
day. Sad day.
Oh, so you're not quitting. You're just.
But you know what? Hey, I was going to say, one of the things that I did come out of this was
You're trying to place an order. You're sitting there talking.
So how many?
One round.
I thought we were doing a podcast.
All right. All right. So what are you
Strawberry
saying?
mojito, another strawberry daiquiri.
Hey, I tried.
another
I've had some
Strawberry
good
mojito.
recruits
Nicola.
for my company.
Another
Here.
strawberry mojito.
That,
She's
that
drinking
have got the
lemonade,
background, got the capability, and
and then he is drinking water. And my boy Larry, no, it is fun. It's good for him. Because if you give me anything more than
so
that, we're pulling them off.
I've got some that are actually
And then we got Larry with another ultra.
pretty sharp. Girls and guys that
2 ultras.
Yep.
got
3 mojitos for one of those, 1 for every 3.
they're going to be sending resumes in.
That's
to our
good.
company. Yeah,
That's good.
absolutely.
That's good.
That's another thing.
So
Back to-
hold on.
back to
Yeah.
your-
Did y'all hear that?
No,
Talking
we
about
didn't.
good recruits because Chris was doing his thing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm doing the important thing. I'm keeping my company well lubricated.
Now,
And it's not with oil.
now, just the point was that I met some really good recruits for recruiting purposes for the company that I work for. That
Talk to the mic.
that have not just the chops for this type of work, but that are hungry. That you
Right.
can tell just by talking to them, that they have this ability and capability, not only cyber, but are asking the right question. Kind of tagging on to what Larry was saying. Asking questions and being a sponge on why they need to know that is
yeah,
important.
absolutely. I mean, I really believe that this conference definitely has the potential to grow.
Oh yeah,
and become a center of excellence for recruiting. It'll be
Hell,
a
I
good
could even see it
recruiting
being an
pool.
international
Well,
conference.
look, I mean, at the end of the day, the organizers of this conference are very well connected.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
they were
yeah.
promoting
They're,
this.
they're very well connected. So,
I mean, that's
so
very obvious.
so I have. I mean,
I don't think I'd
know-
be able to get Jen
I
to
know
come onto my
this
podcast.
first go round was, it's
testing
okay.
the waters.
It's a good
First
effort,
go
but
around,
Yeah.
where I see this thing going, this could be the premier.
Absolutely.
maritime
It really
cybersecurity conference.
could. It really
If
could.
if the senior people show up.
Exactly.
Well, and
exactly.
yeah,
And again, if there's more representation, I mean, again, like there were asset owners.
Yes,
there
there
were, but
Got opportunities.
it was still pretty limited. If you think, again, like you said, I don't know what the
What the
online
online-
presence was.
yeah.
I don't know what the online presence was, but I mean, there's really so there's just over 360 ports in the country. There's over 3,000 MTSA regulated facilities in the country, right? How many of those were represented?
That's
I mean,
great.
if that's what
Yeah.
we're talking about, right?
Right.
You're talking about hack the port, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're talking about MTSA, essentially MTSA compliance, if you will, right?
So here's-
MTSA secure, maritime security, right?
And hacking is not all about cyber.
Right. Exactly. So that's the whole thing. It's security. It's security.
I think, if we're going to be developing the kids of the future, right, who are going to take the responsibility of cybersecurity, security in general, we have to take a step back, right, and just like what you said, explain the physical security side, explain the cybersecurity side, and instill in them now that the unification, right?
So
Yeah.
who's all been to DEF CON or any of those court?
I have.
What do they have? They actually
I'm
have
not special
physical
enough.
security there, right?
Yeah.
They have lock picking
They do.
and all that is there. How does that tie to cyber, right? It's not. It's physical. I mean, portion of, like, if anybody has taken the CISSP, there is a portion of it on
It
physical
all
security.
ties together. Don't say it doesn't. Don't say it doesn't. It all ties together. Every
I
single
never
aspect.
said it didn't. I'm
Yeah,
actually.
you just did.
No,
You
it
literally
doesn't-
just said. You
No,
said,
no.
How's that tied
Hack?
to physical?
No, I'm
It
talking
doesn't.
about. No, I'm talking about hacking. I
Yeah,
said
good.
about hacking is
Okay.
not necessarily tied to cyber.
Right.
That's what I said. So, and that's why I'm saying
That's
lock
not what you
picking,
said. We're gonna have
lock picking, and all that. That is actually a very much big portion of. Actually, it's a competition at the cyber events.
It's security.
Exactly.
It's security. It's not physical. It's not cyber. It's security.
Well, listen, if you're going to have
Period.
representation of Navy, Coast Guard, academia, all these things, and asset owners, the hack the port, secure the port, whatever you may want to call it, moving forward or what have you, is also, I think you're right, Mike. I think it should be, let's find the new FSOs, the young FSOs of the future.
Yes.
If they're going to have to also have cyber and be in charge of physical, then we need to have the FSOs, we need to have the Coast Guard, we need to have all these folks here
in
and
the room.
demonstrate red team, blue team,
Right.
but take it over to the physical side.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think so overall, I give this conference
Yeah, the conference.
a good, good basic A, right? And with the short amount of time that they had, I know attendance. Well, let's look at content. Wait a second. Let's be fair.
Okay. Yeah. Content. Okay.
Content wise, I
You're
give
right,
it a.
you're right.
You're right. I'll
A.
give it a B.
Content.
You know why? 'Cause I
Content.
got
Yes.
standing
Content.
ovation.
A.
I give it an
Content.
I got a
A.
standing ovation
I
from
give
the
it
5
an A.
people in my room.
Yeah, but you don't know how many people are online.
Right.
So that's why we say content A, physical representation.
Fiscal
They were all in the
representation.
toilet when it was a.
Fiscal representation, I think, needs to be encouraged a little more.
And
It's good to have. It's convenient to do the online thing,
Well,
but
here's
you missed a part of the network.
Because you
Exactly.
can't do this if
You
you're
can't.
Exactly.
online. You can't
Exactly.
well, so and you're right. But here's the other part too. With it being so close to spring break, people can't burn 2 weeks of vacation to be at one thing with their family and then go on to the next week. You know what I'm saying?
This more likely would have been just like for me, it's work. This isn't work related.
What I'm saying, yeah.
Well, for me, it was kind of both.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, happy 39+1 to Mike. Yeah,
Happy
it's his
birthday.
birthday.
It's
Happy
the big
birthday,
foe.
happy birthday.
Oh, it's the big foe. Oh,
Sign his
Shit's
shirt.
going downhill from there.
Sign
His
his
boobs are
shirt.
gonna start
nah.
to sag.
Ain't no going downhill. Ain't no
Hey,
going downhill.
So
Ain't
I
nothing
want
up,
to
baby.
I
Ain't nothing
want to
up.
give an A plus to the organizers, Christina,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mondo.
Oh,
They
yeah,
hyped
yeah.
this thing up. I was
yeah.
getting like 7 LinkedIn notifications a day. Like, oh my goodness, this is going to be like the biggest thing in the
I
world.
exactly. Well, that
They
was
did
the thing.
really well.
They're so well
They
connected.
did
Marketing
really
was
well.
good.
And they're
Yeah.
doing,
They
and
did
they're doing
really
some
well.
amazing things.
They did
they're
really well.
doing,
Carissa,
like
I mean,
Dreamport.
all of them. I can't. There's so many to name that they did a wonderful job.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
If I could
They
just
really
get Christine to hype up Mast, we'd be good. We'd be raking in
did. Oh,
millions.
I liked your little plug at the end, by the way.
I tried.
Liked
Julio
your
almost
little-
cut me
yeah,
off.
he was like, so no more. Okay, blah blah blah.
Like, ho, 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 ho.
Well, you know, it's just trying to keep it separate, right?
Erica
from-
wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that plug.
No, that's
Right. I was
And
like,
Q
what?
would be like,
There's a
guys, when are we
webcast?
going to drink?
Right?
Yeah.
Speaking
true.
of
No,
drinks,
I
where
think
are
that
they?
was good.
You know,
I'm running low,
they're
guys.
squeezing the strawberries right
Hey guys,
now.
so all right, so we rated the conference
Supply
and-
chain.
and I think we gave enough feedback, but I like to pick up on what you Mike mentioned and Chris, you know, the whole Russia Ukraine, and we saw the president statement yesterday.
Yep,
and,
15 years too late.
Well, I mean, but we are where we
And I
are.
thought I
So
was finished.
how do we move forward, and how do we learn those lessons? Right, preemptive cyber attack followed by a kinetic attack. And I think Marco, you and I were talking about that 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
The next attack that's going to happen is
don't
going
have
to
a
be
high school
cyber
dropout,
followed
right?
by
Just saying.
physical security, or by a kinetic attack. And here we are, 2022, about 3-4 years later, and that's exactly what happened in the Ukraine.
Larry, so what do you think about that? Because you haven't said a damn word for like minute
No, I'm
five.
actually paying attention. Creating diversion,
He said
like you're saying,
actually.
right? Initiating the attack through a cybersecurity side to create diversion to launch a physical security side. Just the initiatives, the overall initiatives and outreach from the different government agencies. You know, some people take it. It's not as effective as it should be, right? I'm seeing different agencies try to get involved, trying to say cyber best practices. Hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you should do it. And these organizations, they're not doing anything. You can see it from scanning from Shodan and so forth, and looking at what's available out there, right? I honestly believe that regulatory, having more regulatory controls would probably be the direction that we're gonna have to head, because otherwise people are not gonna care, and they're not going to be as
Preach. Hold on. Time out. Preach. The reason I say that, Dick, doesn't he always ask about that?
Yeah.
He seriously, okay. One of the
These
biggest
are legal
things.
representation.
Yeah. So, but
RC.
right. So one of the biggest
Letter
things
C,
is
lawyer.
the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is, yes, things should be industry led.
Yep.
Industry is not going to spend the additional money unless they are forced to do so.
Yep.
Unless they are forced to do so. In part, it's not. It has, in my opinion at least, it has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of folks don't necessarily understand the potential implications, right? So, when you're running a business, every decision that you make is risk-based, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Risk-based, and it should be that way.
Yep.
But if you don't understand the risk, how can you make an informed decision, right? So at some point, there has to be some additional guidance.
Yeah.
Now, it shouldn't be too prescriptive. It should
Should
not
they
be
make
too
too much?
prescriptive, because then you're going to get way too much pushback.
Yeah.
And
you're
it
taking
could
off?
potentially be too costly,
Yeah,
for industry to take
to
that.
adapt. And,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. So it has to be very carefully done, but there needs to be that regulatory push with some of these things, such as not having the freaking FSO responsible for cybersecurity. Make an ISO.
Yep.
Make an ISO.
So I see all these great things that, for example, CISA, cyber hygiene, all those different things that they're doing, U.S. Coast Guard as well, the CPT team. So I see a lot of great vectors that they're trying to leverage, but the thing is adoption.
I
A
feel like
lot of
I've got
people on the
I've got a
MTSA
target
side
out on me
and
now, by the way.
MTSA regulated facilities, although that you brought the NAVIC in and having that control in the U.S. Coast Guard, the thing is implementation-wise and having the funds like you mentioned and having the backing, that's a big course of action that a lot of people fall into, and they can't move or reach the goals that they need to on the cyber posturing side. And physical security side. So it's worrisome, right? And there's a lot of grants oriented toward physical security and so forth. And
That's why I keep saying
Hey, me and this guy, like, hey,
we need
we
to
need to
break
get together.
off.
We need to get together.
We got port security grant, right?
Yep,
That
yep.
needs to be broken apart. It actually needs to
It
be
does.
one just for the physical and one separate
No.
for cyber.
I disagree.
No,
I
because
disagree.
the more that way there's more
agree.
money available.
I disagree. There needs to be more money available. Again, to me, it goes back to security. That's what this is. We're talking security in general. Okay, have a port security grant, and then within that, you maybe break it out.
The good thing that's what they're doing now, and majority of the funding is going towards cyber because
Right,
it's a
yeah.
knee-jerk reaction right now.
Oh, yeah,
it's
of
the
course.
pendulum swing.
I mean, that's
We
how
need-
society is, though.
Right, but I mean, for this, in order for an organization to take advantage of both, there should be two.
Port security grant needs to be double the amount. It needs to be $200 million.
That's what I'm saying. That's
It needs to be
what
$200
I'm saying.
million, And
$100 million for 360 ports, 3,000
That's
plus.
if they decide to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
And then the big ones end up taking all the money because the little ones don't seem to be.
I'll tell you this. I was at a smaller port before I came to a larger port. Okay, smaller port said, you know what? That's the 800-pound gorilla. We're not getting any.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're absolutely right. You
You know,
hit the nail on the head. But
It's
again,
those mom and pop shops with 20 employees that need the money just as much,
Exactly.
if not more. Than
again,
the
there are
big-
3,600 plus MTSA facilities. $100 million. How far do you really think that's going to go? How far do you really think that's going to go?
In cyber, not
That,
very.
period. In security. Period. How far do you really think? If you look at just ports, actual ports, right? 360. Divide 100 million by 360.
Yeah.
How
No,
much you
I
got?
think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
$25 after
But
tax.
going back to the point that Larry was making, where
And ports are
I
the
think a
most
lot of
critical.
people, a lot of companies, a lot of ports don't have. It's not that they don't want to protect themselves.
Right.
I think is that there's a lack of having the Chris Wolskis of the world and the Mike Zeisner's to really be able to convey that message to the C-suite as we need to apply for these funds. We need to take action, right? Because it all goes back to one, you need to be able to recognize the problem. And if your organization is not built to recognize the problem, then that's your first problem, right?
Absolutely.
If you can't identify, right, it goes back to the knees, right? You got to identify first.
Yep.
So, and I think there's a lot of that, right? I can tell you, I mean, CISA has been, you got a lot of the protect security advisors, cybersecurity advisors going out, and we don't have enough of those, right?
No,
Let's
y'all
just be
don't. Y'all
be
really
clear, right?
do not. Y'all really do not.
We don't have enough of those to go around, but they're pushing the message out. You got the Shields Up website, which it's maintained and updated consistently. I thought it's a great idea. You have the catalog of vulnerabilities, but so the tools are out there, and the organizations that have this skill set within them
to be able to apply that.
are taking action and act.
Yeah.
That's
The
a
government
great
is
point.
giving you the screwdriver, right? But if you don't have the handyman that knows how to use that screwdriver properly, then I mean, okay, great, it looks nice, but they can't. They don't know how to use it.
You just said a great point. You said the skill set within.
Right.
The skill set within.
Right.
Okay. Think about that for a second, right? So we'll just say Houston Ship Channel, 200 facilities. Think about that for a second, right? You got 200 plus facilities within one ship channel, right? I'm sorry. I mean, if it's food, I'll take it. Hey, I'm a grown boy. Anyway, so you got over 200 facilities within one ship channel, right? What are the resources provided to that?
I don't know. What do you mean on that? Expand on that, because I don't think I'm following.
So you got like you said, four. What happened?
Keep up.
Damn it, you made me lose my track.
All right, keep drinking. All right.
No, but okay, I think that kind of thing is like me and Larry used we worked together before, and one of the things we were working and building is because of the lack of ability built within. We're doing mutual
Oh,
aid.
you good?
Yeah.
We're doing
He's right next
we're
to
doing
me.
what emergency services already does. Mutual aid agreement between two different organizations or three different organizations so that we were able to sit there and say, okay, yeah, I don't have the resources, but something is going on, and I need flipping help right now.
Yeah.
You know, hey Larry, can you send somebody?
Out of
without that guy
200 out of 200 facilities, you might have 150 of them that contract everything out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about with, you said, resources within, right?
Right.
Okay. Out of 200 facilities, maybe 50 of them have the internal resources to actually apply that expertise, right? 150 of them are contracting it out.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the new CISA requirement. CISA, my bad. CISA, all that.
Security twice.
It's like CISO,
It's super security.
CISO.
CS2. We'll just call it CS2.
Right.
He's a lucky person.
We love you,
There's not
Chris.
so much damage.
All right.
By the way,
too,
that
Philomena.
was the bill that just came.
So Nick mentioned that today, right? That became into law, and now it's going to go through the commenting process and all of that, and
Take advantage of that shit.
right. And I think that's what needs to happen.
I mean, stuff.
Facilities
Well,
need
this
to
is
take
whatever we want
advantage
to be.
of the opportunity to provide the feedback, and hey, let's take advantage of it now, right? It's coming down the
I was
pike.
throwing the
I
banner.
thought it was
So-
hacked.
There needs to be collaboration and
Oh, yeah, you're
that
the
working
advocate too, right?
relationship
Yeah, I
between
just-
government and private sector
Oh,
Throw
for
the
sure.
banner
to make
up
sure
there.
that
and if
notification
you're-
You guys start derailing.
it's
And
effective.
if you are,
We do that quite often, right?
I just clicked on something. Hey, if you are watching on YouTube,
Come on,
see the
Cicero.
little thumbs up below or whatever to like, and then there's a little bell to be notified when we're having another broadcast. Please click on that thing.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and
Hey,
subscribe.
Share.
Everybody,
Share.
We want to hear it from our audience. Like and subscribe, right? On three.
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Like
Like
and
and
subscribe.
Oh, you guys are
That was
awesome. That's almost sound like there's 500 people in the room. There is on the pool over there, but
So speaking of regarding collaboration, I know you mentioned the division between physical security and cybersecurity.
Right.
Chris mentioned emergency management. There's also a division there, emergency management and cybersecurity. I attended an emergency management conference recently. There's this division there where they're like, oh, it's your problem. Cybersecurity stuff going on, it's your problem, right? And that's another thing that has to be worked on as well, is that collaborative effort with emergency management too, so that they understand, what their role is, because they're too busy. Hey, if it's not hurricane related, if it's not a natural disaster, our hands are not on
You
that.
mean if it's not physical and kinetic,
Yeah.
we don't care about it?
Yep.
yeah.
Right.
There's
So-
no fire. We don't care.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's I think Marco and I were talking a little bit about that late in the conference today, where when you look at the incident command system, right, it might not necessarily apply to. I mean, cyber is just part of that,
Mhm.
Yep.
right? But when your incident command systems comes into play is with your continuity of operations plan,
Yep.
right? If your systems go
Thank
down,
you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome.
if your systems go down and now
The CEO
let's say
said
you can't move cargo, or
Yeah,
let's say
you.
what's impacted is
CEO.
your bill of lading right system where it notifies the logistics companies, hey, your cargo's here, you need to send trucks to pick
I
it
know
up,
what that's
right, or
from,
something
it's
like that. Okay, well,
Not enough fun.
let's say
That's
that
fine.
goes down. Well, what's the continuity of operations,
Mhm.
right? You need to have the manpower to be able to engage,
Oh yeah,
and I think that's where it becomes everybody's problem.
for sure.
Right? You need to have that incident command post. You need to have the unified command where cyber response is part of it.
Yeah.
But operations. Hey guys, thank you so much. I know you gotta leave.
We have VIP things to do. Sorry.
Oh, you gotta
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, you got dissed.
All right.
VIP
We see how it
things
is.
to
Don't
do.
worry, we'll talk to the VIPs about the webcast. Okay.
Well, you
We'll
tell the
mention it.
VIPs I'm waiting for a text message back saying that we can go.
Well, thanks for having us. This is awesome what you guys are doing here. So yeah, I'll look to be on in the future.
Thank you, Q.
You
Um,
shall.
So
So you shall.
to finish that thought, that's where incident
hit me up
command
after.
post comes into play. This is where the emergency management side of the house comes into play, is to have that resiliency and have that continuity of operations plan.
Yep.
And have it executable.
For sure.
The other
And
side,
knowing the roles. and knowing the
Wait, you
involvement
just
that-
said plan. Oh my goodness, that's a novel concept.
right? But then again, there's going to be organizations that just they cannot afford it. Right? We have to identify what critical functions are real critical, most critical, and then you have to do an analysis as to
Holy
if the
shit.
system goes
Risk
down,
assessment.
how much is
Supply
that going to
chain.
cost in impact?
Oh
Yeah.
my
Right.
goodness.
And how much is going to cost to have a continuity of operations plan that's in a bag, ready to be executed? And that's where that balance with the funding comes along,
For
right?
sure.
And you know, Marco, I don't know if you want to jump on that. I mean, we talked a little bit about it. I think I don't want to say it's a novel concept, but it's definitely that needs to be talked about.
King for a day, Marco.
King for a day. Are we still talking about the ICS stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
President of the United States for that. How's that?
No comments. My deputy secretary will take care of it. He's a versatile. Hey, there's a pair.
Yeah, I got crapped on earlier.
Did you really?
Yeah.
No, I think
There's
you're
more
on
than one
something,
pair.
Julio. Yeah, I mean, all for it. You know, there was a discussion yesterday and also some today regarding ICS for ICS. You know, the International Society of Automation has got the Global Cyber Alliance, and there's a lot to take in. There's acronyms for that. Megan has she's taken kind of the head of putting that together, and that's using FEMA as like the 101, 301, 201, all that from the ICS side of it. I think there's a lot of use and need for that. It's not a one size fits all, obviously. Depends, but just like OT, you know, security depends in certain scenarios. But huge kudos to those. What I did want to bring up though, and you have the acronym is we're in that SBOM
Okay,
discussion.
SBOM is not an actual kinetic thing. It's software bill of materials. Okay, I was looking that up. I'm like, oh crap, somebody's throwing a bunch of shit around.
But there was a gentleman that was speaking, and actually it was a really good talk. And he brought up a different type. He had a different acronym for it where you're verifying the person.
It's a VISBOM, is what he calls
VISBOM.
it. VISBOM. It's a verifiable software of materials.
Tracking it to the creator.
Right, tracking it to the creator, right? So with the point that he was tracking is right now you go to the GitHub and you have people that find a vulnerability and they write a code to patch that and they submit it. Okay, well, a lot of times, right, you don't know who wrote that code. You don't know what's behind that code. You don't know what unintended consequences that code may have. So his point was we need to have a way to verify who's writing this coding and is it a reliable source, and do we need to worry about does this have a backdoor, right? Are we creating a bigger problem? Are we solving a small problem and creating a bigger problem? And I thought that was a very, very interesting point, and I love it. I mean, because
it's going a step further, right?
I get that, you know, the hacking community and the cyber community. There's this big thing about being anonymous, and I don't want my name to be out there, kind of thing. I think the birds are throwing us with seeds.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
So
have a good evening.
Likewise. But there needs to be a change, right? If you're not doing anything wrong, why are you being concerned with people knowing who did it? I know probably a lot of people in the cyber community be like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" But if you got nothing to worry about, I don't mind if the FBI or the NSA taps my phone or my laptop. I mean, I ain't doing nothing wrong, so I don't care. I enjoy my privacy. I like my privacy. I appreciate it. I love it. But I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm not doing anything wrong. Nothing that nobody else does.
On a smaller scale, it goes back to security over convenience, or convenience over security, I should say. And like that's kind of where we're trending, right? So like the further, sorry, there's a lot of sun in my eyes. So like the further we get away from significant events, the more it's about convenience versus security. I mean, think about it for a second, right? You had, I'll go there. You had 9/11. Everybody said, yes, we need to secure. Consequences be damned, right? Mm-hmm. The further you get away from something like that, the less it's about that, and the more it's about you're inconveniencing, right? So where's that balance? Where's the balance? You got to find the balance to make people comfortable, right? Because I mean, the great thing about us is we are essentially a free country.
We are a free country.
Yeah, no, we're essentially a free country.
Okay.
We're
That could be argued in 1,000 different ways.
Exactly,
All right,
exactly.
Let's go.
All right. So we're essentially a free country, right? We're not the only ones that are free countries, right? There's a whole bunch of other ones out there that are democratic, protection of freedoms, things like that. I mean, in a lot of ways, you could argue that European Union, they're more about protecting individual freedoms than some of the United States. You can make that argument. I'm not saying it's true.
Whenever I was working on my CISSP, it was interesting studying Europe and their privacy laws, right?
Exactly.
And their initiatives that they
exactly
take for the people,
about.
right?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Versus the U.S.
Right.
And and just the differences, right? The differences between the two and their concerns in Europe on privacy of individuals,
right?
Versus the U.S., it's open game, right?
Right.
So there's not much more of a regulatory side of that than what you see on the Europe side.
Right.
But speaking of going back to the Russia-Ukraine side, and talking about targeting cybersecurity and then layering it into a physical attack, you have to look at the links in the chain, right? You're only as effective as the next link in it. And the thing is, like some of the collaborations that we've built ourselves have been critical to our operations there, and effective, right?
It's right here.
I'm sorry, Larry. Go ahead.
So you still have to worry about other entities that are real relaxed in their cyber posturing. They're not as effective at it. They're very relaxed. They don't have the funding to be able to do so. Having stakeholders involved that even though that they're trying to meet certain regulations, they're failing at doing so because of the money factor, right? The budgeting factor.
Right.
And then also, vendors as well. Vendors having relaxed postures, getting into an organization, saying they're connecting through AnyConnect or anything like that.
Too much trust.
VPN, right? Yeah.
That's it. There's too much trust.
Too much trust.
Yep.
You end up with Wild Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything goes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that's the reality of it. We were talking about that earlier, making sure that you have that it's not just the ability to audit, but actually freaking audit. Actually do it. You know what I mean? You can't go 10 years. Yes, you can't go 10 years without looking into a contract. You know what I mean? Because if you do, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's just too much trust right there. I mean, okay, so old adage, right? Trust but verify. Actually do that. But what the problem is it's not just about too much
what
trust.
it is now?
But
Zero trust. Trust nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Trust nobody.
Right.
And
Right.
and that's the thing. Trust
Until proven. Trust until proven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trust
Or
but verify.
no trust till proven.
Yeah. Trust but verify is trust until they become proven.
Yeah, no trust till proven. But at the same time, it's still the whole thing is that people still get too comfortable, right? Let's say you have you have one contractor and they've been your contractor for numerous years. You build that relationship, you get complacent, as do they.
Oh yeah.
As do they. You have to maintain that contractor-client relationship instead of thinking of yourselves as one entity. Do that trust but verify. Yeah, of course
It's critical to have those checks and balances.
Exactly. Without checks and balances, I mean, that's what our government was built on, right?
Yep.
Checks and balances. I mean, you can't be successful without it.
Yeah. I mean, you could spend a whole bunch of money and try to implement effective security controls, but then you have a vendor that connects to a VPN that has very relaxed controls, and then you have a vulnerability from it, right? So that's the thing as well is to remain effective at your cyber posturing. And
Those parents are having a good time.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they like it.
Either
They're
that,
dropping stuff, right?
that, or they're trying to talk about security. They're trying to hack us.
Hey, but we have an audience, right?
We have an audience.
I've already got hit once.
Hey,
we got two people online.
We have a very opinionated audience.
Oh my god. Okay, guys, calm down. We get it.
But Larry, I mean, we so in some of our previous podcasts, we've talked about the third party challenge, and in the maritime industry, in the supply chain industry, you have so many hands in the pot, and even trying to understand those dependencies and interdependencies it's really hard, right? Because private industry does not want to. I mean, they don't want anybody to know who their customers are or who they're dependent on, which it's understandable. But at the same time, we need to somehow, and I don't know what the solution is, we need to kind of figure out what the sweet spot is to where we understand the dependencies and interdependency, so we know what we need to protect.
Yep.
Right. And so we can understand what the potential cascading impacts are. With that said, going back to the Russia-Ukraine example and what happened, not example, but what actually happened is, cyber attack comes in, followed by kinetic attack. If we understand those dependencies and interdependencies, and we are able to fuse together that security, not cyber and physical, but security, and have that convergence, we might be able to start understanding where our adversaries are going to be coming from. Right? And
it'll be better prepared for defensive countermeasures.
Right. And different from the government, right? If the government is the one being attacked, the government owns and understands their dependencies and their dependencies. So they can come up with a strategy to protect itself. However, private industry is the one that's being attacked right now.
Yeah.
So, and because there's no, like some of the agreements that, Chris was talking about, there's going to be this sharing agreements. And I think that's where the ISACs were established to try to bring those groups together and kind of collaborate. But that's pay to play, right?
Yeah, pay to play, unfortunately. Unless you're a state or local government.
So how do we bring private industry together in a cluster to share information, to take a look at what the playing field looks like, right? Where are the attacks happening? Where are they going to be coming from? So you can come up with a singular strategy, and every single private organization is pointing at the same target, so we can protect ourselves. And that's really hard to do. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is for that, but I think we need to start thinking about it.
I think we were talking about the money earlier, right? And the money was like, hey, grants, stuff like that. I think the thing that we really need to be looking at is, that some of that money may be pushed towards the ISACs. Larger organizations, still have to pay to play. But the ones that the mom and pops and all that don't have the financial ability are able to sit there and participate for free, which is how the MSI SAC was kind of set up. It was intended for all the small towns, all the municipalities that, they don't have the funds that a state does. But they're the ones that are actually able to participate in the MSI SAC. Because of the funding that's provided to the MSI SAC from, the federal resources that the MSI SAC receives.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, and I think, we do that with a lot of other funding, right? You need to, if you make this much money, right, let's look at food stamps. If you make more than this, then you don't qualify for the funding. Yeah. But if your company makes less than this, then maybe you get a contribution or some sort of funding to be able to, because you still need to be protected, especially those
security stamp.
But then I would add on to that, it's not just about how much money your company makes, but how critical is the work that your company is doing. Like, if you fail and you get breached, who's going to get impacted?
Yeah.
And how big that cascading, if we go back to that cascading impact, right? One of the speakers today was talking about oblique attacks. And I thought that was, amazing. I call it an indirect attack, right? And the example that he used is, if you want to attack let's say, a Navy, well, normally you have all the civilian boats in the front, and you got all the Navy boats in the very back, right? Because it's kind of like a layer of protection. But if you want to mess with a Navy, I'm not going to say our Navy, but a Navy.
Well, let's not throw tactics out there. Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Okay, we're not going. Well, that was already live streamed.
Yeah, I know, but damn it.
But you attack something else that is not as protected.
Yeah.
That's going to create an impact. Anyways, at cascading,
let it trickle down.
It's going to trickle down, but we need to understand what those cascades.
And that's what that link in that chain is. You're only as effective as that next link.
Exactly.
And if you hit that link just right, They can have impact several
Supply
different
chain
people.
security, baby.
Exactly.
Supply chain security.
Right.
True supply chain security.
Yeah, because it doesn't make a difference if you're actually part of the supply chain. You are somebody's supply.
Yes. You are either dependent or they are dependent.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Or you're interdependent,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's what I'm
Because-
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the
It could be
you know,
both ways.
like,
Yeah. You're
when
right,
you
you're
look
right.
at
I
when you
apologize.
when you
No,
look at
no.
oil and gas, for example, hey, the byproduct that I'm creating something, and then that byproduct, Mike is using it to create his stuff, and then his byproducts are being used by somebody else. But we need to have a better understanding of what that is and how it looks, so we can figure out where those because the adversaries are doing that.
Yeah, they are.
They have done their intelligence, they have done their reconnaissance, right? SolarWinds and all these other supply chain issues. They've been gathering intelligence on how everything is connected.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we can't do that because of U.S. laws, and given everybody's got the freedom to do what they wish, but we need to get past some of that and find a sweet spot so we can protect ourselves, because the adversary is already doing that job, and they have to.
So what do you think about the NVIDIA attack and them? I read articles, right, that the individuals, them being attacked and getting hacked, they actually had a team that responded and hacked the hacker, right?
Right.
What do you think of retaliated measures?
You better be right.
Well,
That's very.
here's the thing.
You better be right.
Here's the thing with that, and I think we kind of brush on that in one of our.
I'm not advocating for
right.
Yeah,
either.
no,
or.
no,
I'm
yeah.
just saying you better be right if that's what you did.
Yeah.
That has the potential for a lot of boo-boos.
Yep.
Especially if it's not coordinated, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the cyber realm.
Well,
And man, you better
attribution
be
is tough.
sure of what you're
That's
doing.
exactly.
Attribution
Attribution's
is
tough.
tough.
And then,
Attribution,
depending
for
on the
sure.
laws of the country, it could be considered an actual act of war.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Crossing boundaries, doing all that kind of stuff.
And
And
then
here's
you
the
got-
other thing. From a
and then-
nefarious standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a nefarious standpoint, what if my intent is to hack Chris, but I'm going to make it look like I'm
But
Mike,
here's
and
exactly.
then let him
Exactly.
retaliate
I
against
mean,
Mike.
and the
And
nation
I'm just
state.
sitting there watching and eating popcorn.
Yeah, and the nation state
Laughing.
attack that I was involved with.
Laughing.
If it came down to it, it looked like it was a nation state attack from the United States that attacked us. Come to find out, it was a foreign country. But it took a long time to get to that point, to sit there and say that was a APT group from another country before. Because, initial indications,
Set up a
it was all
beachhead
here in the
another
United States. It
country.
was a criminal here.
And bringing this back to kinetic stuff and physical stuff, that's what used to happen back in the 60s and the 50s and World War II is, hey, you sent a group of people to a country to rally up people, to feed information to the press that was misinformation and disinformation, to create that smoke and mirrors, right? That was a little harder to do.
If you don't learn from history, you do.
But that is exactly what's happening in the cyber world.
Yeah,
Is that
it
you're
is.
masking
History?
So
No, we're just going to erase it.
dude.
Oh,
So-
sorry, different conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't agree. I don't think we're there. The whole retaliation from a private is too much liability. It's too much liability. Too much room for error. And I just don't. It's not, if it's not coordinated, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's my thought on that.
Well, let's get some final thoughts here. Wrap
All
it
right.
up. Let's wrap it up.
Final thoughts on what?
All of it.
We talked a hell of a lot.
We did.
Well, we
We
talked.
did too.
We talked a hell of a lot, but there was two main themes. One was the conference, and two was how we can make security.
Yeah.
My man.
There we go. How we do?
My man.
How do we push security out further beyond those that have and those that don't? And
I'll start on that one then. All right, my final
You get the
thoughts.
pick, so go ahead.
My final thoughts. Conference we covered. My final thoughts on the security aspect of it. Right. Truly break down the silos. Stop talking cybersecurity, physical security. Start talking security. Right. How do you do that? Start with the next generation.
Yep.
Start with the next generation. Okay. The
Start
reality of it,
making chief security officers or company security officers.
the reality of it
They're
in my mind, the reality of it in my mind is those that are currently in the roles, we're not going to be there much longer. Right? We're not going to be there much longer. No, we're either going to move
Are you
up.
saying I'm about to get fired?
No, I'm saying it's move up or move out, right? Okay, move up or move out.
For retirement, right?
Exactly. I mean, let's be real. That's the end goal, right? Okay, so let's groom those that are coming next. It's think about the military mentality, right? You are supposed to trade those that will replace you. You should not hold on to that information. Stop trying to hold that information and think that it's your life-saving tool. No, your life-saving tool is the one that's going to come behind you and make you look great.
Yes.
Okay? Help them get there. Okay? Conferences such as these that have students and things like that in the mix, get them more involved. Get them into the conversations. Help them to understand our actual perspectives and what we are thinking about.
And some
right
of the
now.
obstacles that we're facing as well. Our
Exactly.
challenges, right? And getting in front of them and be truly transparent with them as
Exactly.
well. And getting their engagement, right? Their feedback.
Exactly.
It builds better individuals of the future, right? What we're
Exactly.
trying to create.
Build them.
Yeah.
Build them into the points where all you gotta do is be like, you got it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Julio.
Well, so first with the conference, like I said, I give it A on the content. I think there's room for improvement, like everything else.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you that
I was highly
I'm
critical at first.
going to be a willing participant coming to. I'm looking forward to the next conference. I'm looking forward how it's going to grow, and I'm looking forward to be a part of it because, again, I think it's very important to make sure that we grow the next generation, and at the same time that all of us that are in the mix right now, we can share information, share knowledge, and collaborate. I think that's my biggest thing. Is we need more venues
True
like this.
collaboration.
Right. We need more venues like this to know each other, to start trusting each other, and to start having some meaningful collaboration when it comes to that. So, and when it comes to, and let's learn from the past, right?
Yep.
From those principles that have been used in the past and how they're being applied to cybersecurity. We need to look back, learn from that, so we can
How they're
prepare
being
for the
applied to
future.
security.
To prepare for the future.
Marco.
Yeah, I just want to say that I give the conference high marks, even with the turnout as is, and I have to say for it being their first one, bringing us here and allowing us to speak, and also to be on a panel and meeting folks that are from industry, but also federal partners that were here in person. I think I give it good marks. I think there's always room for improvement, but you know what? Next year I know it's going to be bigger, better, stronger. So kudos to the team at Hack the Port and Mizzy who put this on, and thanks for having us here.
So I'll go, and then we'll let Larry wrap it up for the final. I think it would have been good to not only just talk about the policies and all that other stuff, but make more give more credence and importance to the lessons that have been learned, whether it was successful defense,
Case
studies,
yes,
or the study where the defense didn't work, and what can we learn from that?
And also no misinformation.
No misinformation. Larry.
So to wrap up here, the conference overall I thought was a great initiative, a great first start, right? I give kudos to them
100%.
and their timeline and how far they went with this so far, right? Of course, they need areas that they need to develop on. One of the big things, if we're training the next generation, we have to show them the need, not only the need, but also explain it to them better, right? We're showing them all these tracks.
Yeah.
How do I apply it, right? What
Yeah.
is intelligence? How can I gain from intelligence?
Yeah.
What is AI? How can I gain from it? And laying it out in front of them and laying out the overall
I like this guy.
and laying out the overall objectives of what we're trying to meet and being, as transparent as possible with them so that we can get feedback from them as well. I think we collaborate with the collaboration with them. We can open our minds to to further knowledge of what they're possibly thinking, and it can be very beneficial.
Oh,
across the board.
I mean,
Great
this
points,
is
Larry.
I like
Spot on,
this
man.
you know
guy.
the one
Knuckle
thing.
bump on the
I
side.
like this.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
The one beautiful thing about this
Yeah,
is
he's
we
still on
have
the
so
fence.
many young minds. You know, they're definitely
Most
super
people are.
smart. And you know, how many times in history have we found, you know, very young people that all of a sudden they're so creative, they come up with this one thing, and you're like, wow, because they're not contaminated with. We're all contaminated. We've been in the mix for too long, right? But they're coming in with fresh eyes, and they might be listening to a problem or a challenge that we're
Speaking
encountering.
of contamination,
They might come up with, hey,
I
what
like guys
about
this way.
what about this way?
Yeah.
And it'll be like, oh man, that gets the wheels running. You know,
Yeah.
get that fresh blood flowing. And sometimes, I guess ignorance is blessed, right?
Yeah.
You might be ignorant to something, but you might have some. You might be onto something,
Sure.
right? And that's where that connection.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, again, we have to put the disclaimer out there that these opinions are our own and do not necessarily reflect our past, current, future, or any other
they
employer
should
that may
do not.
somehow
It's not
be
necessary.
tied to
They
us,
just do not.
or third party or anything like that, because we talked about third party security. So, yeah,
We
these
love
are
everyone.
our opinions.
We love
And-
everyone.
And we love everyone. And with that, thank you, everybody. That's a wrap. We appreciate you all watching, and pass the word. Hey, you know, we're here about security. As you notice, the title is Maritime Security Talk. It's not related to cyber. This is solely cyber. So, again, we appreciate everyone. And that was Mike. He said that's a wrap, and he's like, bathroom break. So,
All right. See y'all.
peace,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you. See you next time.